to another episode of Lost in the Moss. My name is Audra, and today we're gonna build a terrarium. Surprise, surprise. Today we're gonna build a terrarium for a gargoyle gecko. Gargoyle geckos are arboreal, they're jumping, they're climbing, they're sleeping during the day, and they're sleeping in broad-leafed plants. So they're sleeping on leaves like this. Dracaenas are a great plant. And they're sleeping on leaves like this. This is an air plant, Tillandsia, and it has great little hiding spots. Philodendrons of all sorts are one of my favorites. I always talk about philodendrons and pothos just because they do really, really well in this sort of environment. This sort of setup here would be good for a juvenile crested gecko, gargoyle gecko, other sorts of arboreal geckos, for the first year and a half or so of their life while they're growing. And once they are an adult, you're gonna really wanna give them as much space as you possibly can. You hear me say that a lot, but it's true. If you're keeping a gecko in a box, make that box as big as possible. So we are gonna start with our soil mix on the bottom as usual. And I poured most of it onto the table instead of into the tank. So I went and I got another thing of soil and I'm gonna put it in through this hole this time and not dump it all over the table. Now that we have this nice layer in, it's a good 3 inches of our substrate mix here. I am going to add the wood. We use oak here at the facility a lot because it's very easy for us to access. We have an oak forest behind the building and we collect it from trees that have fallen. When it's really windy, trees fall. We had a huge oak tree fall on the property and we've been slowly collecting some of the wood. We disinfect it and we use it in our terrariums. But another really great wood for terrariums is cork bark. Because it doesn't get waterlogged, retain moisture. So I've kind of set a base here of wood, and now I'm going to think about what kind of plants I want. I want plants that are going to provide that cover. And so for this tank, I'm going to use this aglaonema. And like all plants, aglaonemas come in a huge variety of different colors and patterns. We're going to unpot it. You know the drill. We're gonna make sure we get all the dirt off so that we're not adding any fertilizer to the enclosure. You can see this plant has really big, healthy roots. I really like aglaonemas because of the big leaves. They're pretty tolerant of a variety of conditions. So they're forgiving. If you haven't worked with plants before, aglaonemas are a great choice. They do tolerate human error. So I'm really just working all the little fertilizer balls out of the roots right now, making sure that we've got everything out before adding it in to the enclosure. You can always rinse it if you're not sure you got everything out, just to make sure, depending on the type of plant. Sometimes you can tell, you can see. And we have a few different plants, so you can see, let's see, actually we can pull one apart here. So I actually had, that one might not be ready to come off. So we have 3 separate plants. And so we can really spread them out in the cage. We don't have to put them all together, which is the reason I pulled them apart. So we can spread our aglaonema out or just use a piece of it and use another piece for another terrarium, or put a piece of it in a pot and put it in my living room. Whatever you want to do. That's the nice thing when you're potting plants, you can really pull them apart, see what's going on. So I'm using it to fill in that little corner there. And then I'm going to leave the other 2 out for now. We probably will use them, but I'm not sure yet. What I am noticing is this space here. How do we want to fill that space? The canopy. We have a few options. We can add a mounted plant. We can just stick an epiphyte in that doesn't attach at all, like this Tillandsia xerographica that I spilled dirt all over. Let's try that, see how that looks in there. And this is an epiphyte, right? So we would just attach it to the wood here. And I kind of like that, so that might be what we go with. How do we get it to stay? We have a few options. We can attach it with wire, we can attach it with twine, we can attach it with a hot glue gun. We might use a combination because this is kind of a hefty plant. So with a lot of gecko jumping, it's probably gonna get jostled. So we're gonna make sure that it's securely attached. So I think I'm gonna grab maybe the hot glue gun and some twine, and we will attach that. So let's get those ready. While we wait for the hot glue gun to warm up, I'm gonna get some string ready for extra security. I am really just gonna tie it onto the piece of wood. That's really all I'm gonna do, which who knows how tricky that'll be. We shall see shortly here. So I've used the string to attach the plant to this piece of wood, and I've used a little bit of Spanish moss. You can get in here. You can see how we've actually tied the plant to the wood, and we are also going to use a little bit of glue just to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. Our hot glue gun is warm, not quite hot enough. Now, while we continue to wait for that to heat up, we can think about what other plants we want to add in here. So we do have some more space, and we want to add in some plants that will be beneficial to our gecko. Give them somewhere to climb. So maybe a fern, or should we add some more of these? And should we just fill it with pink aglaonemas? Yeah, maybe, huh? Okay, that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna add a bunch of these in. And then maybe some philodendron cordatum, which is a vining plant. That way there's lots of different options for leaf cover for our gecko. Okay, our hot glue gun is ready here, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna add a little dab of glue to the plant to hold it in place a little bit better. So let me just flip this around so I can see what I'm doing. Take a look at the back here. And I am going to stick some glue right where the air plant meets the wood. So I'm attaching it in a couple places to make sure that we are firmly secure in the enclosure, and it is definitely feeling like we are there. So just add one more little dab of glue. So just giving it a couple of attachment points. All right, so we are going to secure our plant a little bit better here. Now that I looked at the back, I realized that it wasn't quite as secure as I would like it. So this is not as simple as a jungle pocket for adding a canopy layer to your tank, I'll tell you that. I should have given myself more string, really. Okay, go ahead and chop the little ends. Our plant is a little more secure. We're gonna add a little glue here though, just to make sure it's fully secure. We are going to add a little bit of glue to the points where our plant is meeting things we can attach it to. So I'm attaching it to the glass right here. I'm going to attach it to the wood and maybe attach the string to the wood a little bit better as well, just to try to keep everything in place. Our air plant is firmly attached to our log. I'm gonna flip this back around and we can take a look at the rest of the tank. So we've got our canopy layer up here, firmly secured. It provides plenty of different sorts of hiding spots for our gecko to be able to hang out and hide and sleep and jump around. And now we're gonna add a few more plants just to give our gecko as many options as possible. And I'm going to add in this philodendron. And this is a vining plant that has a lot of leaves. So this will provide lots and lots of different opportunities for our gecko to find somewhere to hang out in. And as you can see, like all the plants, this is actually a million tiny plants. So let's see what we want to use, where we want to put them. I'll grab a little handful here, knock the soil off, and we'll go ahead and maybe stick them in right at the base of the cordatum, or at the base of the aglaonema. This is philodendron cordatum. There's also neon philodendron cordatum, and it's this plant, but bright green instead of, you know, your more standard green, which is what I guess I would call this color. Okay, it's filling in nicely here. I'm gonna add a little bit more plants. Should we add this last aglaonema in the back here? Just so we really fill the tank in. And as these, maybe I'll have it pop through the hole right there. And as these plants grow in, they will change your tank. So your tank's always gonna be changing. That's the cool thing about the live plants, is the leaves are gonna grow, they're gonna die, they're gonna fall, and provide an interesting environment for your animal to live in, right? Something that's always changing, keeping it interesting. That's one of the reasons I really love using live plants for terrariums. All right, so this is looking pretty good to me here. I think the last thing that I am going to add is moss. So we've got our fluffy moss here as ground cover. So over on the far side, you can see we kind of have a little blank spot. We can add a little bit more cordatum in there. This vining plant. So this will really hopefully just fill this whole tank in. And this will really fill in the back as it grows. So you can see the roots, and essentially you just want to bury the roots. So I'm just gonna pop the roots in, cover them up, and do that with these pieces as well. And this adds lots more cover for our gecko. And if you want to make it bioactive, you can add some leaf litter, and then you can add some isopods and some springtails. Just because you don't have a drainage layer in there doesn't mean that you can't add those beneficial invertebrates to your terrarium. So up next, moss. We are going to fill in the last bit of that ground with some moss. And this is a terrestrial moss. Mosses want to stay moist, but they don't want to be soggy all the time. So, you know, when you're doing your mistings, you're really going to want to hit your mosses. You're going to want to hit your epiphytes, your plants up high. And all these plants are really depending on your daily mistings to thrive and survive. Especially at the beginning, because, you know, these are freshly planted plants. They're going into dry dirt, so you're really going to want to add in, you know, really mist all of these plants down really heavily. So that'll be the last thing we do with this terrarium before we add in a live animal, is just mist it down and make it nice and humid for these plants to thrive and to take off. And we are just about finished. We can add some more moss, steal some more moss from our moss wall here. We've got a few different varieties of this air plant that we call Spanish moss. So we've got this ultra fine Spanish moss. Check this out. See how thin this is. And in comparison, this is our extra thick. So you can really see the difference. And then this is somewhere in the middle. So we work with 3 different varieties of Spanish moss here. So we used some normal already, so let's use some of this ultra fine Spanish moss. Let me break off a chunk here, and I'm going to use it to cover up my glue mess and my string and anything that looks ugly. That is what moss is for, to make it look beautiful. So you can see it kind of got rid of all of that. And this moss is alive. So you want to mist it down and it'll grow. Continue to keep growing. Okay, so that's the back of our terrarium. Let's flip it around and see if we're missing anything in the front. Okay, so I am gonna add a little more moss in the front here, since we haven't added any in yet, into these little open spaces, so we can really make this terrarium feel alive. I think that wraps up this terrarium build. And this terrarium build was specifically for a gargoyle gecko, but it would also work for a crested gecko, a small anole. And I would recommend, you know, a juvenile to young adult in this size tank. An adult crested gecko, gargoyle gecko, you want to go 2 to 3 times this size would be ideal, if not bigger. Until next time, see you guys later.